we're going to switch over now to the next session, which in theory is our core IP strategy. So we're moving slightly to the submarine landing stations. And with any luck somewhere out there, we've got Mark. Mark, are you out there?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Brilliant. Well, I'm going to hand the virtual microphone to you and let you take it away with the panel.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you all for being here. I would like to introduce a couple of people in the panel. Guy from Lumen, a former CenturyLink. Tell me.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Yes, I work at Lumen. We just rebranded from CenturyLink. And I head up the peering policy for the company and work on the IP interconnectivity, CDN and interconnectivity. That's it.
Okay, perfect. Bernhard Pusch from Telstra. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, Bernhard Pusch. Yep, cool. So dialing in from Brittany here, where it's cold and wet. Work for Telstra, look after our global IP strategy, including peering. Occasionally work with Guy as well. So we're an Asian provider, headquartered in Australia, so can cover a little bit on some of those far-flung markets of the Far East and the Pacific.
Good. And McWilliams from Deutsche Telekom.
Hi there, it's Miles here. I work for Deutsche Telekom. I look after the sales section for the IP, the CDN, and the security side. Been in the business, well, for Deutsche Telekom for 8 years, come from a CDN background previously. Looking forward to the conversation today.
Perfect. Good. Guy, let me start with you in regards to, let's say, I'll start with the COVID stuff first instead of Dom.
Have another drink.
Yeah.
I'll start. Have another drink. I'll start first, Guy. 6 months COVID. You probably had your challenges, your global challenges as well. Can you give us some highlights of things that you've seen that happened, and just shed some light on things there?
Sure. So like everybody else, we saw immediate bandwidth increase from pretty much all vectors, but especially around the video conferencing and video delivery markets. But I figured since we have Bernhard on the call and I covered with him over the weekend that we can kind of discuss this. So there were situations that have arisen around what to do during lockdowns and how some of the traffic delivery can affect the network for providers. And so Telstra had come to us a couple of months ago saying, hey, we just had a new lockdown in Victoria, which is going to affect Melbourne, which is one of the largest cities in Australia. And what can we do to work together to make sure that we don't overload the network there for game downloads and video downloads, etc. So we got our product and ops teams together and figured out a way to reduce the delivery capacity in that region to make sure that the interconnects between all of the different networks in the region were free for business application and for schooling and whatever. And it took a lot of cajoling. We worked with some of our customers rather to rate limit some of the traffic to go through. That was another thing that we did. And even despite having one of the largest game downloads in I think on internet history, we were able to have a good outcome and made sure that everything was uncongested and functioning the way that we needed it to, to make sure that, again, that the internet in Victoria specifically, but Australia as well, was unhampered and available for usage. I don't know, Bernhard, if you wanted to chime in there.
Bernhard can jump in as well with his.
Yeah. So look, I mean, Australia is kind of an interesting place, just from a CDN perspective, also because it's so far away from everywhere else, right? So if a CDN node gets overloaded and it has to back up to another node somewhere else, the latency can go through the roof, right? I mean, Sydney to the US is about 160 milliseconds. Sydney to Hong Kong is about 120. So in these markets, it's quite important that you don't kind of back up into other regions because it's so far away to get to any additional pop. So when Victoria went into lockdown, we knew that was going to add quite a lot of additional load to the node in the Luma node in Sydney. I think from their side also wanted to get closer to that population. I mean, Australia's a market with kind of fairly simple in as much as you've got two major cities of approximately 40% of the population, Sydney and Melbourne. And then the rest is really spread around. I mean, there's a little bit up in Brisbane, about 2.5 million up there, but it's not spread out like most European or North American markets. So you can cover it with a couple of nodes basically. So some of the bigger CDNs have more nodes spread around, but there's only 5 major cities. Certainly, yeah, we've seen some increase in implementation of some of these second tier additional nodes. We've seen similar things happening in Asia as well. Actually, I think Singapore, which has been a node a site that generally covers Southeast Asia. Some of the other markets, the Philippines, especially, has been hit quite a lot with COVID lockdowns because you've got so much BPO going on in that market. So there's a lot of traffic increase into those markets. So we've seen probably up to kind of 100% increase in some of these markets as COVID hit, but then I think that's kind of driven some of the players to put more nodes around the region. That's certainly more interest in internet exchanges and CDNs that seem to be looking at putting nodes outside of the normal nodes, which is kind of Singapore, Tokyo, Hong Kong.
Interesting. You mentioned 100%. Miles, having a better view on Europe, a different continent, what did you see there in terms of COVID, in terms of how traffic was transferred, was moved, and how you cope with all the CDN activity there?
Well, if we look at it from a CDN point of view, we didn't have any issue at all. I guess a lot of European telcos went in panic mode very quickly in the COVID stages, and obviously we saw bit rates dropping with a lot of the video content. I guess we're in a different situation of the way that we build our networks and are very content driven, meaning giving a lot of capacity to the OTT players and providers within the market. So even if we had to additionally receive another 2.5 terabits of traffic, it wouldn't have been an issue for us. So we saw some sort of surge, but then that traffic didn't grow as the way we'd like it to have grown. Expecting from a traffic point. Obviously, from a B2B point of view, we saw a shift with a lot of customers coming directly to us. From a connection point of view, we were able to connect them very quickly. We saw obviously an increase with regards to B2B. A lot of the, the WebExes, the Ciscos of the world and everybody else that were typically coming through indirect peering sort of side, coming directly, having direct connections, which obviously improved their quality. And we saw sort of 3 to 4 fold take up once they had direct connections with us. So, we build our networks very differently to everybody else, where we provide as much capacity as possible with no congestions. I can't say that for the rest of Europe. Obviously, every telco has a different budget or different mindset. But we, from a Deutsche Telekom and from the other 7 nutcos that we look after and manage, capacity was not a major issue for us with regards to it. So yeah, we were in good. And say we were well prepared for it. And we still are well prepared for any large amounts of traffic that need to come through should there be some disaster that takes place with a shortage of notice like we've just experienced now. So hopefully that's given you a bit more insight.
Yeah. Following on this, if you look at this is in relation to COVID specifically. In generic, with especially the US companies pushing a lot of OTT video into Europe. There are hardly any European players. It's basically primarily American ones that move into Europe. How do you guarantee quality to your subscribers being an ISP? With all those different kind of players having different traffic sources, whether those are the kind of players themselves, whether those are CDNs, whether the traffic comes from carriers. How do you cope with all the different routes into your network, enabling to make sure that you guarantee quality?
That's directed to me, I guess.
Yes, that's exactly. Yeah.
We have all the big providers directly connected to us. If you look at our market in that, one is we have excess capacity. So every OTT player, every CDN player, every content pusher in the market has an excess capacity. I had say, for example, they want 1 tera of connectivity. We'll typically give them 2 tera of capacity. So we like to be content friendly and give them that. Our ports are not congested, so we push as much on a direct point of view with uncongested ports with direct connections. I guess I'm very different to that of the other markets where we're the economical hotspot of Europe. The OTT players, the content players of the market, the CDN players of the market, they want the German eyeballs, call it. We pull a lot of content, which means that we're an access provider, very different to that of other providers in the market that are typically maybe access and transport providers. So we pull a lot of content, and this is obviously the big driver with regards to how the economy works and having direct connections, because the better the quality is, the more capacity we provide the uncongested ports, the more that their ticker is turning, the more they're making, and it's the more that they keep in the eyeball, the German customers and eyeballs that we have sitting behind us on that side. So it's a win-win situation. It's sometimes very challenging because there are certain price structures or pricings within the market, and people believe sometimes a lot of these interconnections should be for free. Well, disagree with that, because economically there is reasons behind why one has to charge and one has to pay for things, and you're buying what you are getting at the end of the day. And yes, you can have indirect or you can have a direct, but you do know that from a direct point of view, obviously you don't have any of these issues at all that you would be typically experiencing on an indirect side of things.
It is interesting to mention, Guy, I'm moving to you on this. You look at it from a global perspective. Miles is primarily from the Deutsche Telekom footprint. You look at it from a carrier perspective, both being a CDN as well as a carrier. If you look at all the interconnections that you see, and knowing that a lot of people are talking about the edge, how can somebody like Lumen position themselves in the future being a global player?
Sure. Yeah, what we see is, there's kind of a tried and true interconnection market. In the U.S., it's 9 sites that typically everyone is interconnected in. In Europe, there's the FLAP, right? Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam, Paris, that everybody interconnects in. Same occurs in Asia, Hong Kong, Singapore. Everywhere has their interconnection points. So what we're seeing is that, as a CDN provider, for example, being closer to the eyeballs gives you better performance, gives the customer, both the content and the consumer, a better experience as well. But the same is true on just plain IP, with enterprises that are connecting. And so, we've actually recently rewritten our interconnectivity guidelines and did away with ratios, for example, and used other metrics to try to proxy what kind of behavior we want out of interconnection. So deeper interconnection with people. Mm-hmm. So that in the U.S., for example, we're starting to request connectivity from our partners in Phoenix and Denver and Philadelphia and Boston and St. Louis, Detroit. In Germany, people are typically built in and went to Frankfurt, but we're in Berlin, we're in Dusseldorf, and a number of other markets as well. Australia, since we have Telstra here, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth. But all of the major markets that we're operating in, we're going deeper. Manchester in UK, Marseille in France, Barcelona in Spain. So getting the ability to switch traffic between carriers deeper within a country is very important, and it highlights this concept of localization that we're pushing. Which again, it's good for CDN, and that's our focus here. But it also helps enterprise. It'll help 5G uptake and connectivity. I don't see it ever like fully going edge. You can put some applications on what we're calling edge, but I think that in general, we just have to work deeper, go deeper with our connectivity partners. With the people that we've selected to interconnect with, at least from my perspective, on a settlement-free basis, and enable the people that want to deploy in the edge to be able to take advantage of that, so it's not all backhauling to the same locations. So that's kind of how we're approaching that. Is that we're going to help enable the edge. By deeper interconnection.
Yeah, so more distributed architecture, basically in general,
yes.
as being Lumen. Okay,
correct.
Bernhard,
sorry,
from
Mark. Sorry, Mark. Just quickly, just on what sort of guys sort of saying that is, I guess it's quite nice that you've got 3 different ISPs on different continents. If you look at the American market, it's a much bigger, larger scale to cover in that. And typically, this is where the CDNs benefit from that sort of side, even that to sort of on the Asian sort of side of things. And if you look at within Europe and that, we've got no caches in our networks at all. This is a no-no within our policies in that. But we don't have the vast scale of countryside that you have to do. Got to cover from within America or South America or that of Asia and that. So each, call it continent, will have a different view or different look at things with regards to, be that on the edge or be that from the CDNs or even on a direct point of view. We're very lucky we can get away with direct connectivity with no caches deep employed into our network, which it's not, that won't happen. So it's an interesting conversation. And Guy, I can understand your pressure that you have, and I can obviously understand the issues that Bernhard will also be facing on their side.
Perfect. Sure, but Well, just let me reply to that. So, you have Berlin, for example, which is, one of the 10 largest metropolitan statistical areas in Europe. And true, it's relatively close to Frankfurt, but, as you say, Germany is one of the largest economy in Europe. And so while you don't have caches on your net, I guess, and that's your decision to make, but regardless of, looking at it from a content delivery perspective, just from an IP connectivity perspective, I mean, don't you agree that having, multiple locations within a country will not only make it more robust and keep traffic within that country, because there's data sovereignty issues that that we see, from different countries being proposed and enacted. As well as just, enabling IoT, enabling, AV, VR, all the stuff that's coming down the pipe, or I guess AR, not AV. But, don't you think that helps make the internet more robust, and would be preferable, I would assume?
I'm not here to sell Deutsche Telekom, but they've done a fantastic job with regards to how they've built their infrastructures and that. I've been there 8 years. We've not had any issues at all. With the amount of traffic that we're growing on a month-to-month basis, not having a single cache in our network. Obviously, we've got all the typical CDNs deployed in the multiple metropolitan locations and that. We can shift traffic very, very, very quickly. And we've got, obviously, the way that we've built robust. It is an expensive business, but it's a quality that comes down at the end of the day. And Deutsche Telekom is all about quality at the end of the day. Obviously, we've looked at things with regards to, do we save money on backhaul? Do we allow, certain OTT players in the market and that? Based on all of that, we still find that it's far better for us, being a European organization and the ground that we have to cover. It's still far better for us to have it the way that we've configured everything currently within the market. And again, I guess we're a smaller little island compared to that of the US, where you've got from east to west, which is a large, vast amount that typically you would have more sort of looking at on a CDN side, or caches, or how to build robust systems and that. But yeah, so far, touch wood, we've not had any issue, and we're delivering very quick. And obviously, we're always looking at how to improve things. And I do deliver all the way down to Asia as well with no cache. But that's because our network is totally uncongested on a direct connection.
Good. Talk about Asia. Bernhard, if you look at from your point of view, from a Telstra side of things, right? Different geography, different challenges. If you look at, let's say, a distributed architecture on your end, even pushing down to edge, that kind of stuff, would that be beneficial with Telstra? Is that something you guys are looking at? Is that a suitable strategy?
So the problem in some parts of Asia, we also keep our network uncongested, because we own we own pretty much all of our infrastructure in Asia Pacific. What's kind of blocking some of the rollout of more POPs in Asia probably is some of the markets are still quite closed. If you're looking beyond the kind of Hong Kong, Singapore, Tokyo, and Australia, which are, there's, Equinix, or other data centers that are not aligned to any carriers. You don't yet have that in some of these other markets. So it's still quite complicated to decide where to put your content and how to connect with the local carriers in those regions. So these at the moment, it's still really that Hong Kong, Singapore, Tokyo. There has been some expansion into Osaka because to have a second node in Japan. Taiwan is gaining interest. Those markets are more open, but when it gets down to kind of Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, etc., that's still pretty complicated to get into those places. Yeah, so we still see things very. Sorry.
That's purely because of infrastructure, lack of connectivity.
There's an amount of lack of infrastructure, but there's also a kind of local carriers haven't there's no kind of openness of data centers, internet exchanges, that kind of stuff hasn't yet kind of grown into those markets. So it's more complicated to build, to connect to everyone in those markets, which is why Singapore, Hong Kong, and Tokyo, where the major internet exchanges are, still remain the major connection hubs in that region.
Okay.
And traffic is growing dramatically into those. But the other thing that has happened is we've seen a real step change in traffic. I mean, a lot of Asia, a lot of the second-tier countries were still running on 10 gig interfaces until quite recently. But we've seen a real big take-up in 100 gig recently.
Okay. Good. Last question I'll have before we move into questions. Very quick one. Guy, Lumen bought Stringroot about a year ago. Basically the deepest edge you can think of in terms of mesh delivery video. What are your experiences with that in terms of offloading traffic or capacities, especially in peak times?
Yeah, we have begun integrating that into our platform. It is a multi CDN platform, works with multi ISPs. We've run a couple of fairly large events, multi-terabit events, and mostly from broadcasters in a particular country. So multi-terabit in a single country is pretty large still. I'm saying that so people watching this in 10 years aren't laughing about multi-terabit events, but yeah, we optimize the delivery. It uses a peer-to-peer model, which there were a number of companies that entered into the market, the peer-to-peer market, a while ago, with varying success. We think that this time we have the right DNA in the product to make it work. Like I said, we've already had a number of successful events where we're overhauling some of the back end to help incorporate it better into our delivery strategy. And this is something that ISPs don't need to necessarily even be aware of. The decisions made on the customer of the content side to use the delivery or not, but we can absolutely optimize along with ISPs and set boundaries that we don't want traffic between cities. We want to keep traffic only peer-to-peer within a certain city with a certain subnet. How it's IP aware, so we can tailor it to make sure that the ISPs are benefiting, the content owners are benefiting, and that everybody's getting a better experience.
Okay. Good. We have I think 2 questions, quick ones. How is gaming download and play affecting your networks? Are global operators interconnecting to reduce latency? I'll leave that to Telstra.
So gaming downloads, yeah, look, actually working with, so Lumen have actually been doing a lot of the Call of Duty downloads locally. So we've certainly cooperated with them to increase the capacity that they have in Australia during the during the lockdown period. That has reduced the amount of traffic that is going onto our is having to come through the US, right? So basically, if the CDNs in Australia max out, normally they will fall back to US. So we have since the increase in capacity that's been deployed, we've seen the overflow reducing, but the gaming downloads are still massive traffic. Drivers of traffic. So every time there's a Call of Duty download, we're looking intently at where the traffic's coming through, and often there is overflow still to backups outside of our territories. So it will overflow typically to the US or Asia. Does that answer the question?
Don, do you have time for one more, or is it time?
You can squeeze one more in if you want, because we're going into a little coffee break anyway.
Okay, that's for Guy then. I think it's appropriate for them. Local broadband operators like Cox in the US, Elite Gamer, are developing purpose-built networks to support gaming. What is happening globally in first and last mile? How are CDNs adapting to this groundswell in interactive applications? Guy.
Well, like I said earlier, there's a large push to localize into geographies that were underserved, let's say. I'm not familiar with Cox's specific gamer tailored network. I could be wrong. I don't believe we have anything like that brewing on CenturyLink, because we are ISP here as well. So, but I would assume that basically we're just talking about deeper interconnection, more applications at the edge which need to have deeper interconnections to help solve
those issues. Good, perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Guy, Miles, Bernhard. Thank you all, and thank you for attending. Great.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you to you all for a great panel. It's been a great start to the morning. So we're going to take a little breather, have a little walk around our offices. I would say go for coffee, but if I have coffee at this point, I'll be up. Oh, well, I will be up until 3 in the morning. So perhaps I should have some coffee. So hope you're enjoying it and finding it informative so far. We're going to have a quick word from our sponsor, NS1, and then we'll be back with you in about 20 minutes. So go and stretch your legs after this word from our sponsors.
Business success in today's hyper-connected world requires you to innovate on all fronts. Move to the cloud, expand your global footprint, deliver rich content, become more software-driven, or be more agile in the way you develop and deploy applications and infrastructure. The dependencies across your business technologies have never been greater, and providing seamless access to your networks and applications keeps getting more complex. NS1's technology platform is the modern foundation that powers exceptional application experiences for everyone and everything, people and devices around the world, outside or inside your network.
We build our platform to simplify access and application networking. By taking an API-first approach, we ensure that our solutions can be deployed, managed, and dynamically scaled in an automated manner. Our platform facilitates fast and secure communications across cloud, edge, and on-premise networks. It also makes intelligent, data-driven decisions to deliver applications anytime and anywhere. Our customers have enough complexity as it is. we want to make it easy for them to modernize their infrastructure.
The NS1 platform features a global anycasted DNS network, as well as comprehensive internal DNS, DHCP, and IP address management services designed for performance, security, and reliability. It offers a consistent user interface, REST API, SDKs, and scores of integrations with solutions and toolkits across your ecosystem to automate deployment, management, and monitoring. Its patented filter chain decision engine can ingest and operate on a variety of data sources, including configuration and topology data, infrastructure and internet telemetry, as well as community and customer data to improve application performance or balance load across the network. NS1's platform, with 26 points of presence spanning 6 continents, is battle-tested across over 600 enterprise clients, tens of millions of domains, and over 1 trillion queries per month. With a 13-minute average time to first response, NS1 enjoys a 100% satisfaction rating with pioneering enterprise clients like Salesforce, Dropbox, and LinkedIn.
The NS1 platform delivers 70% faster response times, 0 downtime migration from old DNS infrastructures, and a 75% reduction in DNS maintenance work. During the 2020 Super Bowl, we made real-time traffic steering decisions among 5 CDNs for 3.4 million concurrent viewers. We helped save $2 million in annual CDN spend for another client. It makes our day when we hear from our highly valued customers, like Bas Geyer from VMware, who use our managed DNS solution to accelerate their digital transformation efforts.
NS1's powerful technology platform delivers a portfolio of applications and access networking solutions with a consistent user experience. This includes a SaaS-based DNS and application traffic management solution, as well as a software-based enterprise DDI solution. NS1 is transforming legacy application infrastructures. Is your business ready to modernize? Learn more at ns1.com/platform.